Hello, everyone. It's Brian here. I hope you're ready because we are now at part 9 of my countdown, I guess, of my 200 favorite Canadian songs of all time. So we're getting close to the top 100. Two things I need to tell you before I start, as I do every time, and that is that I'm only choosing one song per artist. And secondly, I have to own the song on some format. It could be a CD, could be a record, it could be a compilation. The other thing I usually do is I try to remember to give you some names of people who aren't on the list. So this week I will tell you, or this installment I should tell you, there's nothing here from Matthew Good, and there's nothing here from Amanda Marshall. I don't really know much about her. I mean, I'm aware that she's released music. I know some people love it. I just never really intersected with it. So I don't even know if I've heard a single song from her. So those two people are not on the list. Jan Arden, which will be no surprise to anyone. Tea Party. And again, another band that's probably okay. I just don't really know anything about them. Now, here's a band that you might think is on the list out of the West Coast that were kind of really famous regionally in Canada, called Trooper. They had a couple of giant hits here, which I detest. Those two big hits, I'm not going to mention them. Those two major songs that get all the radio play, I just cannot stand them. And I think generally the music really hasn't aged well for me. I have owned Trooper records in the past, but I don't think I have any now. I'm pretty sure I don't. Now, there's a couple artists that probably should be on the list that aren't because I don't own them. One is a band called Rhymes with Orange out of Vancouver. I think they did 4 records. I'm not sure what the first record is called, but it contains a track called Marvin, which I've always really loved, but I don't have that, so it's not here. And the secondly is a band called Rusty from Toronto, and I think the record was called Junkie. Anyway, in 2025, that album was pressed on vinyl, I think for the first time. There's a song on there called Wake Me. I do like that song. I would have bought that record had I seen it on RSD, but I didn't see it, so I don't have it. So now let's get on to number 120, and I'm going to look here because I do have numbering and things so we don't get it all messed up. 120, we're starting with someone I mentioned before, of course, and that is a guy called Aidan Baker. This is a collaborative effort from Aidan Baker and Claire Brantnall in the electronic rock, synth pop, dark wave, is that the right word? Shoegaze, electronic, progressive kind of music. Now, she was in a band called, or maybe still is called, Shield Patterns out of the UK. Now, I don't know her nationality, but Aidan Baker is definitely Canadian. I've seen him in concert. He's a guitarist. He's also, I think he plays other instruments as well. He's interested in tape loops. He's also a poet. He has released or been associated with hundreds of releases, so it's really difficult to keep up with him. You may not even see it. The album's called Delirious Things. It's really difficult to see. And the song I'm choosing from 2017 is a track called Dead Languages. So it's really an interesting record. It's kind of dark, mysterious, kind of haunting, kind of minimal. And Claire's vocals are really ethereal. So it's got that weird contrast between, this beautiful ethereal vocals and this sort of maybe dark music. Words and music by Aidan Baker, vocal melodies by Claire Brantnall. So interesting. That's the back of that, if I didn't show it to you. So in a sense, it does sound a little bit suspenseful in places. And this track I've chosen, Dead Languages, is quite long. It's over 6 minutes. So I call the music kind of intense in a way, but also infectious and really engaging. So that is 120. Now, track number 119, we're going to, in this, address a dark chapter in Canadian history, unfortunately. This is a release by someone named Ohama. His real name is Tona Walt Ohama. Who I think to this day may still live on a potato farm in Alberta. In fact, on the back here, you will see his parents with potatoes, and that is subtitled or titled Mom and Dad Ohama with Potatoes. Really interesting electronic, maybe a bit synthy, minimal wave music that might be influenced by John Fox. The song I'm choosing is Midway, by the way, on this 12-inch single. 2 other tracks are Thin Lines and Without a Word, as you may see on the back. So let's just look at the front here. There is an identification card here. So I'm going to read this paragraph on the back here. It says, in 1941, Dick Modocado was 13 years old On March 5th, 1942, the BC Security Commission gave his family 48 hours to move from their home on Vancouver Island. They were allowed to take 2 suitcases and a clothes bag each. The rest of their property was confiscated and sold. Mr. Motokato went from Vancouver Island to the Hastings Park Livestock Building and then to the relocation camp Tashmi. He spent 4 years there with 2,500 to 4,000 other Japanese Canadians. So, like in the United States, Japanese Canadians were interned during World War II on some sort of unfounded fear that they would form, I guess, a 5th column within Canada. The registration card on the front cover is from the 1940s and belongs to Tona Ohama Sr. So, really awful. I did, like 35 or 40 years ago, meet one person who had been in a Japanese Canadian internment camp. Had a horrible story. I think the reparations were paid at some point because all their property was confiscated and sold. Just a terrible miscarriage of justice. That's the back there again. So, and this is a family photo here. So anyway, Midway, a really interesting song that features fragmented lyrics, layered over, I guess, electronica, if that makes any sense. So there's Midway, right? So the track in general focuses on the tragedy of the internment of Japanese Canadians into these internment camps. So horrible, horrible, horrible thing. So that is 119. 118, a song, actually 2 songs I think everyone will know from The Kings, out of, I guess, a mixture of Vancouver and Oakville. This is The Kings Are Here, their first record from 1980. And it's 2 songs, really, because I'm talking about This Beat, The Beat Goes On, This Beat Goes On, and Switching to Glide, which are always played together, at least here on the radio, produced by Bob Ezrin. So this is from 1980. It's interesting, he apparently came back from producing Pink Floyd, was in Toronto, went into a music studio and heard this band recording their music and liked what he heard and thought he could help them out. So he helped them with the production on this record. And he created with the band a weekend anthem, a radio staple to this day. And I think I'd be surprised if anyone doesn't know it. It's really cool. Here is lyrics and there's the band. So a pretty good album. 117, we have to move to a compact disc for this one. This is from Joel Plaskett, Emergency, as you'll see on the back. So Joel Plaskett has released music under his own name, Joel Plaskett, but also with his band Emergency. This is called Scrappy Happiness from 2012. And here's the inside. So I've chosen the song Lightning Bolt. He's an indie rock person from Nova Scotia. And I guess that's really the best way to describe it. This particular album was recorded, I think, a song a week for 10 weeks until the album was done. By the way, it says, "Thank you for purchasing this compact disc. Please remove it from the plastic tray." Well done. Now insert the disc into your player, set the volume to 10 and press play. So you have to give people instructions these days, I guess. Here is the insert. I found his music quite interesting. So the song I've chosen, which is called Lightning Bolt, is an interesting song. It starts with guitar and everything, but around 2.5 minutes in it really goes into this really cool instrumental section, which I really quite like. Distorted guitars, really great. He sings something... It's not your fault. This life's a lightning bolt. So I guess reflection on the fact that life goes very quickly, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, number 116 is a Canadian Toronto band called Fembots. This is their album called The City from 2005, their 3rd record. This band's interesting because they use both real instruments and also what they call junk instruments, and also whatever happens to be around, like power tools or whatnot, to make their music. And this song I've chosen, which is called Life in the Funeral Service, is kind of an indie rock, indie folk song, experimental song, which talks about, the transience of life, the passage of time, that kind of thing. So... really cool. So 2 songs in a row, really about kind of the same thing. Now, I guess as a antidote to that, for number 115, I have a band called the Deers from Montreal, and this album's called Gang of Losers. This is one of those weird packages with the stitched in booklet and the CD that's in one of these pockets that's hard to get out. And the song I'm choosing is called, was the first track on the album, called Ticket to Immortality, which evidently is about his reflections on becoming a father, or as he's about to become a father, and the idea that ticket to immortality is, your genes get introduced into the next generation, and then the next generation. So if you die, at least your genes will continue on. So that seems to be what the song is about, and I think it's actually quite good. It's an indie rock song, kind of like there is a large sound to it. So I'm not sure if it's a wall sound, but there's a big sound to it. Okay. Right, number 114, another compact disc. This is from a band from, where are they from? Toronto, I guess. I think so. The Constantines, and this is called Kensington Heights. It folds out like this, and like this, and like this, and like this. This is from 2008, by the way. So they're kind of this one folds out. And then if you look at it this way, you end up with an airplane, which I think is quite cool. So gritty, post-rock, high energy, got the punk stylings, but with a more of a post-rock kind of feel to it. And the song I'm choosing, or boring art there, is called Our Age, which you probably won't be able to see there. But it's kind of the idea of holding on to youthful ideas while going into the idea of becoming an adult, I suppose. It's hard to say. But it's kind of like an anthem for a generation transitioning out of youth. Maybe that's a way to put it. So interesting. So that's 114, Our Age from Constantines. Number 113, I'm going to dedicate this to MGK Boston because I know he likes this band. That is a Canadian band. I keep saying Canadian. They're all Canadian. Called Breeding Ground. This is called Tales of Adventure from 1986. Yeah, I think you'd call them new wave, possibly post-punk. I've always liked this album cover with this sort of ceramic-looking rabbit there. Here's the back of the album. Now, the song I'm choosing for this is called Happy Now I Know, featuring accompanying vocals by, I always forget her, Molly Johnson. If you go way down the list to track number 195, I think, her band is there, but she contributes to this record. So the lyrics and the band again. And so Happy Now I Know, when I first heard it, was a really confusing song to me because I thought this was a Christian rock band and I thought they were promoting Christianity and spreading the word. But it turns out that this is like a send-up or a parody of Christian rock music. So he sings, "Here's the answer. I will let him take my hand and I will keep him in my heart because I know he understands that he and I will never part." And he thinks, I'm happy now I know that Christ is by my side. But the whole thing is kind of a joke, which I didn't know at the time, but it kind of makes sense now. Oh, I guess I've been showing labels today, so I'll show you that one. The rabbit makes another appearance. So a bit of satire there for number 113. All right, moving on to number 112. Kind of an underrated band from Toronto. Folk rock, I guess you'd call them. This is Crash Vegas, and the album's called Red Earth. This has the date of 1989 on the record, but it wasn't released till 1990. It features Michelle McAdory, and it was founded by her and Greg Keeler of Blue Rodeo, who oddly was later fired from the band. Now, he and Michelle McAdory were in a relationship. Anyway, he still contributes to this record, the debut record. I think there was at least one more. I think they're really underrated. And then he kind of left the band entirely. So the other interesting thing about this, well, there's a couple of other interesting things. One is that the bass player is Jocelyn Lanois, who is the sister of Daniel Lanois, and it's produced by Malcolm Byrne, who, of course, is a longtime colleague and collaborator of Daniel Lanois as well. There is a fantastic cover of Neil Young's Down to the Wire on here, which you may want to check out. And the second single from this record is a song I'm choosing as number 112, which is called Sky. Oh, by the way, here it is. Lyrics. It's called Sky. kind of a really melodic alt rock song, which I think is quite fantastic. Jocelyn Landois also spent some time in the band Martha and the Muffins, as you may know. So this is a totally underrated record. In fact, as I was reviewing what the 10 songs were in this section, I thought maybe this song should have been a lot higher. Maybe it should be a lot higher, but I didn't want to make too many changes to it as I was going along. All right, now 111, and the last song for today is from an artist that really is someone that is a little kind of an oddball one in this list, and that is Ian Thomas. Well, this is in fact the Ian Thomas Band. He released music as Ian Thomas and also the Ian Thomas Band, and this is called Glider, the airplane sort of reference there. They wrote a lot of interesting songs that were covered by other people. In fact, The Runner was covered by Manfred Mann. Anyway, the song I'm choosing here is called Pilot, which is the first song right there, which you may not be able to see. So Ian Thomas's brother is Dave Thomas of SCTV and Bob and Doug McKenzie. Some people probably already knew that. This song is really interesting because it was a track that was probably overplayed when I was a younger person. I probably heard it way too many times on the radio, and yet I still really love this record. By the way, you can see a family resemblance to his brother there. I'm sure you can. So apparently that song is a critique of big business and a plea to do something about global warming way back in 1979. This is if what I've read is true. So that's really interesting to me because in 1979, I didn't know anyone was thinking about themes of global warming, but you never know. Anyways, this one I readily admit is a bit of an oddball one in my collection because one wouldn't expect it to be here, especially since it came out in 1979 when I was, delving into other sorts of interesting music that was well away from this kind of music. But there you have it. It's a good song, and I really enjoy it. And his music overall, I think, is really good. Ian Thomas. So that is it. We are down to, that was 111, and 10 more to go, and then we'll have the top 100. Okay, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.